Word. All right. How's everybody doing? Doing well? Feeling good? Give yourself a pat in the back. Welcome to Houston. We have a problem. It's a Friday after dark. I know I was keeping up late at night or early in the morning if you are in Europe, or a comfortable time of the day if you're like in Japan or Singapore or Australia. Anyway, I've got a repeat Andrew Stewart shirt on. Lovely feather shirt that Andrew Stewart sent me. I like this shirt. If I ever go tour Blue Origin again, I have to wear this shirt because their symbol is a feather. Okay, so a filing today with the bankruptcy court for Bed Bath & Beyond. In that filing, this is a share count from AST from before the bankruptcy. So they had not become a Q stock yet. They had not filed for bankruptcy. It is registered share owners. And there are, how many shares supposed to be? Wait, wrong button. That one? Yes. Sorry, I gotta look up how many shares supposed to be. I think there's supposed to be like 400 million. I don't know. Issued shares BBBYQ. We should have 558 million shares. Okay. So it should be 558.74 million shares. And Cede Co, who is the DTC, those are the fast shares, those are the ones that are in your brokerage accounts, listed 780 million shares that they held. So 230 million more, 222 million more, whatever, then there exists. So interesting. So I wonder how many shares are in other companies that, you know, were shorted like crazy. How many others do you think are out there like that? Now, if Bed Bath & Beyond doesn't find a buyer, which, you know, fingers crossed they do for our lotto tickets, then it continues on the Q pink sheets, and it just disappears and eventually is no more. And none of those 280 million excess shares will ever have to get purchased. Now, I don't know what price those stocks were shorted at, but if I were short, I would desperately be trying to pick them up at 10 cents or 14 cents or whatever it reached today. After hours, it went up. Simply to close, so I don't have to worry about any of that mess in case there's a buyer. Because if the buyer comes along, the buyer could say, hey, we're going to buy your company, and we're going to buy it at $6 a share, $10 a share, and pull you out of bankruptcy that way. And it's a great way to get rid of all the debt that's burdened with and to pay off debt that you can't discharge. And then all of a sudden you've got this functional company with no debt and ready to kick some ass. But, you know, maybe they're gambling. They're saying, okay, we're gonna make it go through bankruptcy, reorganize poorly. It won't come out of bankruptcy, and it'll just set sail into the Q sheets and die forever. I'll not have to buy anything back. But I found it extremely interesting that that's what's happening. Also, as regional banks continue to collapse, like they are doing very poorly right now. There was a list that came out. It was like 191 regional banks that are in trouble. That's a lot considering the 85% of holdings in America, of deposits in America, are in like the top 8 banks. So there's a lot of little teeny tiny banks that could be in some serious trouble as a result of all this. This is happening while First Republic Bank, which got seized last week or beginning of this week, and then all their assets were sold to Chase Manhattan, JP Morgan Chase. They're now under investigation for insider trading. So it looks like management was like, get rid of our stock, we're going down. And they sold before everything else dropped even further. And so now they are probably going to be facing some issues. So anyway, happy Cinco de Mustache. I've got a full beard going on right now, so no mustache for me. But I hope you're having a good one. It's party time. Got a whopping load of you in here partying down with me on a on an excellent Cinco de Mayo. So, it's nighttime. Got the monkey butt. Monkey butt, monkey butt, monkey butt. Okay. Yeah. I don't know if I had any more news for today to start off the beginning, but I'm sure if there's more news that I'm totally just you folks in the chat will gladly update me on what that news is. I'll stretch it out. Stretch out time. Yeah. All right. You hang out down there. Just peek right over that. Two little eyeballs poking right over the ottoman. Okay. Since 54. Hell yeah. Michael Mystery. Whoopee. Mo ass for your ass. I have so many jokes about unemployed people. Sadly, none of them work. Bill Coin last. Mo ass for your ass. Hasten, what's with all these conspiracy theories and fake photos showing Obama and Michelle, and they keep saying she's a dude? Why do people fall for this lunacy? Because people are stupid. Most people are mostly stupid. Now, of those stupid people, there are ones that kind of know they're stupid, and they go, I'm not smart enough to have any opinion on this stuff. And those are the best. Those are the ones that have like a better constitution than most. But there's also a large portion of the population that's like dumb and evil. And they want reasons to like hate someone, and they'll search for it because it fills some sort of hole in their life. I'm not sure. There's reasons to be upset with the Obamas, but trying to pretend like, one of them is that Michelle Obama is secretly a man or something. It's pathetic. There's better ways to spend your time in life than doing stuff like that. The conspiracy stuff, it bothers me so much, especially when you can point to like the physics of why it doesn't work. Okay. My sister was messaging me yesterday, and she was like, how come I can't see detailed pictures of the South Pole? This is outrageous. How come there's no detailed pictures on Google Earth or anything of the South Pole? And so I found some Landsat images, and I sent her detailed images of the South Pole. And she's like, well, why is this on Google Earth? I was like, well, because it's at too far of an angle. Trying to explain how satellites orbit. So you have the globe, and you have what are called polar orbits, which they don't exactly go over the pole. They go kind of at an angle. So it might be like 30-degree angle. And as they at the angle, the Earth rotates under them. And it can be a sun-synchronous orbit. So basically when they pass through a certain region of the planet, the sun is at the same position in the sky every revolution. So as the Earth rotates and it goes around, it's taking a picture at 11 degrees latitude at exactly the same time of the day, every single day. So all the pictures look exactly the same. And because it doesn't ever actually go over the North Pole, and the camera points straight down on the satellite, it can never like take a picture of the actual North Pole. Plus, who gives a shit? The North Pole is just a bunch of water. The South Pole is a giant snowfield. So you're not going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars just to get a perfect, clear, crisp picture of the snowfield of the South Pole. When you only need like one picture ever, and that's it. You're done. You want to spend your money on a satellite that's going to be able to stay up there for dozens of years, taking pictures of all sorts of the other interesting things on the planet. And it took a while, and she finally was like, oh, so the conspiracy theory that it's like South Pole doesn't exist is like bullshit. Yes. Very good. We've figured that one out. Woo! Good job. Especially since like she knows people who have been to the South Pole. Like, she and I know people that worked at South Pole Station and like lived there. Like, come on, dude. The one non-scientist in the family. Okay. Bill Coin. Musk is putting out tons of videos of misleading false information on the failed Starship launch. They are so bad, they're funny. I've not seen the videos. I would love to see them, though. It's amazing talking to some of the sycophants, though, about the Starship launch. And they're always just like, well, you don't have all the data. I'm like, buddy, the data is useless. if your idea is that this is a test, right? Like you're doing an experiment, you want to control as many variables as possible, which means you want those engines to fire up and work in an environment where the environment itself isn't going to destroy the engines. But the bell housings, the nozzles got ripped off by pieces of concrete. They lost at least 9 of those nozzles. This piece of concrete, they're flying 400 or 500 feet in the air next to the rocket. They've pieces of debris 6 miles away from the launch site. Like, if your idea is to collect pure data to know where your design issues are, where your engineering and manufacturing issues are, you're not going to get it out of blowing apart your launch pad and sending chunks of it into your rocket at the speed of sound. And then Elon, his solution is, well, we're going to rebuild the pad exactly the way it was. We're just going to put a water-cooled concrete or a water-cooled steel plate down. And all the experts are like, that's just going to create steel shrapnel this time and not concrete shrapnel. Because the harmonic resonance of a Raptor engine is like 30 to 40 hertz. The harmonics, the sound that comes out of the rocket engines is like 30 to 40 hertz. The harmonic resonance of steel is 38. So if you're pummeling it with 17 million pounds of thrust at the harmonic resonancy of the steel itself with a ton of heat hitting it, that thing's just going to wha-pang. Unless your steel plate is, 40 feet thick, it's going to rip apart. Even then, the water cooling wouldn't help. That's the point. If that's the case. I think it's going to be a long time before the FAA grants him permission to launch again. There's a ton of ecological damage that happened in and around Boca Chica. There's 250,000 shorebirds, like endangered shorebirds nests there, and their nests are covered in concrete and dust. The estuaries are full of concrete dust, which just jacks the pH really high and will kill off everything. It's just such a silly launch. Like, just do it right the first time. Just do it right the first time. If it takes an extra 6 months, so be it. But it turns out he didn't want to apply for permits for the construction of a launch pad that would be useful. And a launch pad's useful, has flame diverters. So when the thrust comes down, all that fire comes down, it shoots them out these channels so that it goes somewhere rather than like into the infrastructure that you're building. Deluges, so you fire a bunch of water into the base of the rockets, and it absorbs a whole bunch of the sound as well as heat and thrust. And that water, if you ever see a video of a deluge, it's crazy how much water comes out. And you need channels, and you need to have somewhere for that water to go. And if you're at sea level on a little barrier island, that means you have to build a system to hold all the water that runs off in when it happens. And you get to get permits from the Army Corps of Engineers and the EPA, and all because you're building in a nature reserve, is where his whole project is. Hi, buddy. And he didn't want to do that. I'll just launch it, blow a bunch of shit up. It's lazy, man. If you're gonna do it, monkey, do it right. Right? This is a rocket you're gonna try and send people on, and you just can't fucking blow it up because he did it wrong. Right? You just can't blow it up. You can't blow it up. No. Oh, you sweet little dog. Look at your sweet little face. Yes. Oh, helicopter ears. Oh, yeah. It's a sweet dog. It's a sweet dog right there. Okay. Moas for Yoas. When do accountants fall over? When they lose their balance. Jesus Christ. Dude. Jason, Moas for Yoas is giving you your run for your money right now. Kelly Reed. Banks happily let us get railed over and over for the last few years, lending money to short sellers, avoiding margin collateral calls because they are good friends. Now the shoe's on their foot. Yeah. The small banks are begging Congress to pass a law against shorting banks. Now, they weren't allowed to naked short them, but they're shorting them legitimately right now, and it is an absolute crush fest. People are seeing their particular bank, their stock go down, and they go, oh, this bank's not doing so well. Maybe I should pull out my money, and which makes the bank do even worse. And it becomes this like a rubberous cycle, self-fulfilling prophecy or something. Yeah. So This is what happened in 2008, 2009, was there was no one left to short except the financial institutions because they made a whole bunch of bad bets. So, it's like, you should have never given me that money because I'm going to use that money to burn you to the ground. Biting the hand that feeds you. Can I read? In your opinion, will we hit stagflation? How screwed are we? Lol. It really depends on how the Fed responds to everything. Like, if they don't let the economy crash before inflation actually drops, then we'll be in stagflation land. If inflation is still up there and we're still pumping money into the system to save stuff, you got to let inflation drop. So if the economy crashes, you have to go, well, hands off the wheel for a month until everybody freaks out and they can't afford anything anymore and inflation just drops because demand disappears. Then you can cut interest rates. Then you can spur lending. Then you can print your money or release the reverse repo funds and all that stuff. And you can get trucking again. But if you release those things before inflation has dropped, then stagflation city. We'll be stuck in it for a long time. So I hope there's people at the Federal Reserve who are, keeping their eye on that, knowing that this is ramifications if they start printing before everything is finished dying, because it's got to do some dying first for sure. Anna Rolnick, Houston. Happy Cinco de Mayo. Several of my finance industry friends were laid off this week, and my business credit still says 0. Excellent. Well, on the negative side, if you need money, you can't get it. On the positive side, you don't owe anything, so you can apply for credit if you need it. So, I mean, what if? It's a big what if. What if some ape folks got jobs in the financial industry, in the banking industry, and just, I don't know, took one for the team and just deleted a whole bunch of mortgages and debt. And then they got fired and like, oh, it's gone. I dropped it all in recycling bin and then deleted the recycling bin. Like, what if we had, it's sort of like a Fight Club, but with spreadsheets. Just delete, remove, and then you could probably do it for a couple of months before someone's like, wait a minute, all of our books show everything at 0. That doesn't make any sense. Before they finally trace it back to you that you've been like deleting everything. And I bet you anything, if it came down to it, you could do a GoFundMe and you would just make a fortune. They'd be like, we'll pay for all of your legal services, and when you get out, here's enough to live on. I'd donate to that. Jason Blackwell, Houston. When you go to a writer's meeting, be sure to wear a sweater. There will be a lot of drafts. Oh my God. Jesus. Tool of Freedom. A senior software engineer at Google jumped to his death from the search engine's giant headquarters in Chelsea. Chelsea, England, or Chelsea, New York? Goodness. Got Robert Plant in the house. All right. Can't wait to hear what this metrosexual Marxist has to say tonight. Am I a metrosexual? I don't think so. But, what if I was? Who gives a shit? I mean, I do put toenail polish on one toe, but that's because I dropped a ski boot on it 9 years ago, and I scarred the cuticle, and the nail just grows out like a monster. So I try to trim it up, and I just paint it blue because it's better than people looking at the nail going, "What the fuck is that?" So that's I guess my metrosexual traits there. Is there anybody's metrosexual anymore? That was like 15 years ago when people were doing that. 16 years, 17 years ago. It's like 2003. Peachy Sunday, happy birthday. Lost my spot. There you go. Happy birthday, Hugh Stonk. The market going strong amid some bank collapsing. Most major banks going green. What's going on? Well, major banks are going green because they're taking all the deposits. Everyone is leaving their small banks and then depositing to the big banks. So like the big banks are safer, which may be helping the big banks. But remember, Wells Fargo and Bank of America failed all their stress tests. This may be a temporary boon for them. I'm not sure. But a lot of problem is that major banks are where small depositors are. You, me, all the people who are workers, they like go to Chase because there's a Chase across the street, and that's where they have their savings account, their checking account, and everything. The regional banks are the ones that give out a lot of commercial loans. So you open a shoe store or a restaurant or a construction company and you need a line of credit. Your line of credit will be at that regional bank. And the regional bank will be like, okay, we're giving you $1 million line of credit. That means you have to have your checking account with us. You can't have your checking account over at Wells Fargo because fuck you. If we're giving you that money, you're going to hold it here in this account, which as a result becomes a whole bunch of these regional banks have deposits that far exceed the $250,000 limit of the FDIC. And so you've got a lot of folks with huge lines of credit and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars in their accounts. So if the bank does go under, that's it. Their money's gone. The line of credit is not only gone, but the cash they took out in that line of credit is also gone. So people are trying to figure out ways to pull all their money out of these little banks, which is causing the little banks to shrink, right? Because their deposits are going down. And as they shrink, they have to sell the instruments they use their customer money for to invest in long term, such as the low interest rate fixed loans that they have. And if they sell those bonds, those fixed loan bonds, they have to sell them at pennies on the dollar, which causes their assets to plummet as well. And it just becomes this downward spiral. Goldman Sachs is under investigation for perhaps sidling a lot of these banks with these loans and bonds that are going to die. So they did the same thing in 2008. They sat all these banks with a whole bunch of loans that were designed to implode, and then they imploded. And Goldman Sachs is like, excellent, because they had taken out credit default swaps against all that debt. So they sold the debt to the banks and then took out credit default swaps against that debt. And so they made money off of selling the debt, and they made money off of it when it died because they were designed to implode. They were given ratings they didn't deserve, and Goldman Sachs walked away with the cash and took a giant bailout at the same time. So what's old is new again. I mean, a report just came out today that KPMG has been fixing the books for a whole bunch of banks and hedge funds and everything else. Well, KPMG got busted in 2008 for fixing the books for their huge accounting company. They got in trouble for fixing the books in 2008. And they got in trouble for fixing the books in 2001 when the dot-com bubble happened. Right? And they were under like a consent decree in 2001 and had to hire a whole bunch of compliance attorneys. I dated a girl who was a lawyer, tax lawyer, who was working for KPMG. KPMG is based here in Seattle. And her job was to make sure that none of the accountants were breaking the law. And in 2007, the consent decree was over. They let her go. In 2008, everything crashed. It turns out they've been doing all that all over again. So if you discover that your mistakes make you money, you're going to make that mistake over and over and over and over. So the only way you're going to guarantee these people don't keep making these same mistakes is if you punish the hell out of them. If they do nothing but lose a serious amount of money, then they're going to stop making that mistake again and again and again and again and again. So, which brings us to the SEC announced they gave their largest reward ever, $279 million to a whistleblower who turned them on to $4 billion in fraud. The fraud may have been more than that, but the fines were $4 billion. So some person got like a mega ball lotto of $279 million for pointing out like, hey, a bunch of crimes are happening. So, here's the plan. Everyone get jobs at banks. Delete all the mortgages and everything else out of the system. And while you're doing that, get whistleblower status with the federal government for calling on your boss for shorting people of their money, and then get a huge financial windfall as a result. Those seems like a solid plan. So jot that down. Okay. Tatiana Popova, hello. What do you think NX stock price will be in 2-3 years? Tatiana, I cannot answer that. I can't answer MMAT questions, so sorry. Hoshi Gaming, can you try this in the new webpage? Eye of Africa. Thank you. What? Hoshi Gaming, can you try this in the new webpage? Eye of Africa. Hoshi? What? I don't know what you mean. SS Commando. Let the regional banks collapse. Well, they probably will. Otto Mags. Houston, why is J Webb throwing out the theory on how the universe was made? Oh, James Webb telescope? I haven't heard it was throwing out the theory on how the universe was made. I know it's seen some cool things, but I have not seen anyone say that it's throwing out the theory of how the universe was made. Point me in the right direction. I'll read it if you got it. There's another SS Commando. SS Commando 28. Michelle got that bulge and very, very strong forearms. She doesn't have that bulge. She's got a huge ass. And men don't have asses like that. I'll be honest. That is a lady's ass is what she got. Junk in the trunk. SJ, g'day. G'day, SJ. G-Font, YYC. Not that I want this show off the rails, a bunch of political talk, but who are some Democratic candidates that could actually win that aren't too old to run? Honestly, I don't know who. I'm sure AOC could make a strong run for it. She has a large popular following, but a lot of people are scared of her because she's Democratic Socialist. Without a bunch of old people in there, Cory Booker might do well. The Castro brothers could probably do pretty well. Middle of the ground probably was Claire, what's her face from Missouri, former senator, Claire McCloskey? I'm thinking of. Those would be pretty solid at that. Now, there's a few. Problem is that everybody who runs everything at the high level is like 75 years old or older. They wouldn't be allowed to fly a plane commercially. Why are they running the country? Like, why is Dianne Feinstein not forced to retire? The woman has full-blown Alzheimer's and is not. Her brain's not there. It's like blah, blah, blah. Like why is that allowed to happen? She's 90 years old. She's got full-blown Alzheimer's. And she won't step down because her underlings won't let her finally retire. She has no idea where she is, what she's doing. She's referring to being the mayor of San Francisco, which is like in the 80s. She's like, how are you doing? I'm the mayor of San Francisco. People are like, you're not. You have not been the mayor of San Francisco for 35 years. So I would be okay, I'll be honest, with age limits. Just, enjoy your retirement, old people. You don't have to be running the world when you're in the 90s. Just step aside. Let somebody who knows how a cell phone works and an ATM works and can surf the internet take over for a little while. I remember when George H.W. Bush was president, early 90s, and he did a stop at a grocery store, and the person was scanning food, and he was like, what is that? And they're like, my UPC computer scanning all the codes. He's like, codes scanning? What is this demonry? That's when you know you're old and out of touch. Perhaps when you get old, when you're in like geezer stage where you're befuddled by technology that's been around for 30 years, it's a good sign that you should just sit on the porch and yell at people about being on your lawn. SS Commando 28. G-Font. Oh, right now we're looking at DeSantis or Trump only. Some guy bet Houston that he has to wave the rebel flag if one of them wins. Yeah, neither of them are going to win. Trump's probably looking at prison. DeSantis is going to just get absolutely ravaged by Disney. And the people in Florida hate his guts right now because their insurance prices have gone through the roof. And all he's ever done is like hate on gay and trans and people and minorities and Disney. And he's going to get ravaged so hard by Disney. It isn't even going to be fair. My goodness. Like Ron's a lawyer, right? But he's a lawyer. He was a JAG for the Navy. So like he knows Navy code. Maybe. Not really. I mean, he was one of the people like watching torture happening and being like, that's legal. So I don't trust him in his legal sense. And just, he's been getting ravaged by the courts. He's gonna get whooped in this court case over his abortion law. They just passed, the Florida legislature just passed a law make it illegal for Cuban people to own property in Florida. That's really going to go over well with the voters, especially when your entire base are Cubans. Cubans and rednecks are your base. You just made it so half of your base can't own property in your state. Not the smartest move. And everybody in Florida, Florida has really insane property taxes, about 2% of the home's value. And your insurance costs have just gone through the roof. So you used to pay $1,000 a year for homeowners insurance for flood and storm and hurricanes and stuff. Now you're paying $4,000 to $7,000 a year. So you're seeing a 700% increase on your homeowner's insurance, which is adding $400 to $500 a month to your mortgage that's already really high in a state that has extremely high taxes. So if you can't afford to be there anymore, your home's going to get foreclosed on. You're going to be facing liens and all sorts of stuff. It's just such a dumb system they created. And it's all to make the insurance companies happy because insurance companies want more money and less customers in case there's a storm. That's their goal. Because the storm comes, they go, oh crap, I owe so much money. But if they're getting piles of money for just a few people, then they have to fix a couple of homes, and that's okay. They can live with that. Ron Johnson, if the government / Fed can counterfeit money at will, why do we have to pay taxes? That's a question people always like to ask. Largely because you have to restrict, at some rate, you have to restrict the velocity of money in the system. So if you just print, and that money never gets sunk back again, then the value of the currency falls to nothing in the process, which results in you having to print even more. And then you got like a runaway situation like Zimbabwe. Whereas if you have a tax base, that money goes back into the government, used to pay for things, and it slows down the velocity of money while improving things like infrastructure and increased buying power for things like Medicare and Medicaid, and funding the military. But if you just printed an extra $4 trillion a year to pay for the government, then it'd have to be $5 trillion next year, and $6 trillion the year after that, and $7 trillion the year after that, and it would just, because of just the velocity of money, would cause runaway inflation. G-Font, thanks SS Commando, but I'm asking Democratic candidates. Aaron Salentine, Houston. I was explaining to my family over dinner table that when the banks crash, hedge funds will be margin called by banks to cover up the naked shorts and the whole market process will squeeze. Yeah. They think I'm crazy. I believe we have MOAS during crash, but every heavy shorted stock will squeeze at once. What are your thoughts? That's basically the way I see it too, is that if the banks have to pay their bills, then they have to pay all the bills, right? They're going to need their money. And they're scared to do margin calls now because they've leveraged so much money to these hedge funds and family funds that the assets are never going to get it back. You got $1 billion in assets and you owe $30 billion in margin. So you liquidate those $1 billion in assets, there's still $29 billion in margin that the bank has to cover. And Can they do that? I don't think so. That is where we go back to the printing. Federal Reserve will have to print to save the major banks and the prime brokers because an economy without them cannot exist. Now, this is where Congress and the SEC and the FTC and all these guys get together and they go, okay, the system got out of control. We just had to print $11 kajillion to save everyone from the system we created. So perhaps, if we're smart, we make it so this doesn't happen with the system. We start to eliminate certain things that we did during the 1934 Securities Act and the Glass-Steagall and things like that, where we say, hey, stock buybacks were illegal until 1982. Prior to 1982, you could not do a stock buyback because they were one of the things that led to the Great Depression. We're facing what could possibly be something on the level of the Great Depression. Very close, at least Great Recession territory, if not more. And it's largely fueled by things like stock buybacks. Apple has done over $500 billion in stock buybacks in the last decade. $500 billion. The entire reason Apple had good results for their quarterly earnings is not because the revenue went crazy. It's because they spent $60 billion buying back stock, so their earnings per share were the same as they were the previous quarter last year. That's it. It wasn't because they're doing better business. It wasn't that they're selling more stuff. It's that they bought back so many shares that their earnings per share look fantastic. So not to actually like spend money on innovation and making new products and being revolutionary, because you just spend that money on buying back your own stock and you reduce the amount of stock out there, and what's left looks great. So they're proposing a 4% tax on stock buybacks. I think it should be higher. I should make a 100% tax. If you're spending $1 on a stock buyback, you're giving $1 to the federal government. That's the way it should be. So if you are like, oh, we got to do ourselves a stock buyback, it's going to cost you a fortune to do it. Now, people can argue there are some tools that stock buybacks can be used for. Like if you're being shorted like crazy, you can drive up demand for your shares by removing a whole bunch from the market. But you can also do that by eliminating naked shorting entirely. So eliminate stock buybacks, eliminate naked shorting. Done. You've just solved that issue. If you want your stock to improve, you invest in the company and you make things better. 30 years ago, they spent $6 of every $10 of profit on R&D, research development. Now it's down to like 97 cents. It's just crazy. So we aren't doing the innovation. We aren't doing the research and development. We aren't doing the large projects and boosting stores because we now do executive compensation is in the form of stock. And then we manipulate the stock so that the executives make more money with their stock. They can sell it to someone. They can have it, reduce the amount of stock out there. And since they allowed stock buybacks to happen in 1982, it used to be a CEO made about 40 times what the average employee made. Now it's like 400 times what the average employee makes. So their executive compensation has gone up 100 times, and the minimum wage has gone up $2. So, yeah, cool, awesome. So if everything crashes and we go downhill, I would hope that it crashes so hard that those who are elected are like, okay, this can't happen again, because they're going to kill us if this happens again. They will pitchfork us, put us in the guillotines. So we're gonna have to fix some things and get rid of stock buybacks, get rid of naked shorting. Gone, done, fixed. Yeah. Smash the banks with a hammer, shatter them into 1,000 banks, and go from there. Justin Marmon. It's hilarious that you think you know more than the guy who started Tesla SpaceX. Justin Marmon, Elon did not start Tesla. He bought Tesla from the guys who started Tesla. Matter of fact, he bought a majority of the shares and then kicked the guys who started Tesla out. SpaceX, he is not a rocket scientist. He had a dude named Tom Mueller, who is probably one of the best rocket engineers who ever lived, who was actually in charge of everything at SpaceX. And Tom Mueller is now just a consultant. He's no longer in charge of things, and SpaceX is a shit show. SpaceX is such a shit show that not once, but twice lost dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens. We're talking multi-million dollar satellites, dozens of them, because they don't have an astronomer on staff looking at the sun. They had a whole bunch of Starlink satellites up there, and this huge solar flare came along. And normally, somebody who's in charge of thousands of satellites has an astronomer who's like, excuse me, turn off the satellites for the next 12 hours because a solar flare is coming through. And then they go, boop, and they turn off the satellites. So no electrical systems are running. And the solar flare passes by, and then they turn them back on again. They didn't do that. So when the solar flare came through, it killed the electronics like a giant EMP of all the Starlink satellites that had up there, and they died. And then just a few months ago, they scheduled a launch of one of their Falcon Heavies. They've got 40 Starlink satellites loaded in there, and they launched the sucker up in the middle of a solar storm, and they lost all 40 of the satellites at $1.5 million each. Just so dumb. It's so dumb. I mean, NASA was formed in 1958. That's the year we launched Explorer 1, which was the first orbital U.S. satellite. And 11 years later, we landed someone on the moon. Saturn V rocket never had a mistake. It never blew up. Every single test and launch was successful because they spent the time to do it right, and they wouldn't hit that launch button until they were sure they had it right, so that if anything went wrong, they knew exactly what was going wrong in the system. Right, here we are 21, 22 years later since SpaceX was created. They've blown up how many rockets? I mean, rocket scientists were telling them, dude, you can't have a concrete pad with a rocket that powerful. And Elon's like, oh, we're going to try it. And we're like, no, we've known this for 80 years. Like, that much thrust blows apart concrete and it destroys everything. He's like, but I'm trying it, so it's going to be different this time. And then the exact same thing happens. You can't like tech bro your way outside the box and subvert the dominant paradigm of laws of physics just because you're a billionaire dude and you think something should work that way because everyone's like, you're cool, you're awesome. It's actually going to work that way because the laws of physics are still going to be the laws of physics. Like, you know, we're just trying to like get past the common notions. Okay, you want to get past the common notion of the theory of gravity? Climb to a tall building and test it out. See if you can overcome that. Physics is physics. The results of 17 million pounds of thrust and insane heat and sound waves are going to be concrete explodes, smashes into your rocket, destroys all your systems, and becomes unusable. Right? The rocket couldn't make it to altitude because they blew out 9 engines. And then, when they tried to decouple, it didn't work because it smashed a bunch of concrete into the couplers. Like, it's just so dumb. It's so dumb. I mean, Jesus. Man. Justin Marmon. Elon went to school for economics and then never graduated. I went to school for astrophysics and how to build rockets. And I graduated. Amazing. It's almost like I actually know more than Elon about this because I read the textbooks and I could show you in the textbooks where it talks about don't make a flat concrete base for your rockets. You need a deluge and a flame diverter. That's why every system has it, but he didn't want to do it. So, yeah, he's an idiot. If Elon was born poor or middle class, none of you would have ever heard of him. The entire reason he's known is because daddy was the angel investor in his first company, and his mom was a supermodel. That's it. That is the entire reason. And he failed upwards since then. his company X.com was garbage, got bought up. And they're like, X.com's a stupid name. It sounds like porn. He's like, but I like it. I'm like, no, it sounds like a porn company. We're not going to do that. But because he had all this stock, and as a result, like, okay, well, you want to do payment services, we'll make you the CEO of PayPal. It lasted like 4 months because he's not a programmer, but likes to think he is. And he made them do an entire rewrite of a system that was working just fine. You don't do entire rewrites of the whole system. That's what he's trying to do at Twitter, and it's just so dumb. The system's working fine. You don't need to do a rewrite. So he's doing this giant rewrite and making all these guys do rewrite. And then there's compounding problems with the website. And eventually the board had to fire him for compounding problems with the website and literally having no business plan. So they gave him a $100 million parachute to get the hell out of PayPal before he ruined it anymore. And he took that $100 million and he sunk into Tesla. And they took the company away from the founders. The founder's like, hey, what the fuck? And Elon's like, I'm the founder now. And they had this lawsuit because he wasn't the founder. And the settlement of the lawsuit was probably resulting in a bunch of cash for these guys that they have to call him the founder now, even though he was not the founder. And then Elon basically grifted his way through that. Got a bunch of tax breaks. Got a bunch of government contracts. Got a bunch of subsidies and bailouts. And as a result, he's got this large chunk of wealth. But at SpaceX, Tom Mueller and company basically created an entire management system that was specific to managing Elon, basically keeping Elon from tripping over his own dick. And Elon would say things like, "Oh, totally, Elon, we'll get right on that," and then they wouldn't, and then he would forget about it and come up with another stupid idea. But Tom Mueller he's just like a consultant now, and he stops in every once in a while. He's not in charge of anything. And now you're seeing the results of Elon actually managing and people being forced to listen to him. When you get things like the Starship launch, which just is one of the dumbest, most avoidable launch disasters we've ever had. Just so, Monkey, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? You just want to snuggle? You want to come all the way up? Want to come all the way up? Yeah? He's, oh, Jababadoo. That's what she wants. She wants a little snuggle. Yeah, she probably wants the snacky poos, but she's not going to get any snacky poos yet. It's too early for snacky poos. It is. It's too early for him. You get some snacky poos a little bit later. What is it? Wait, what? What? What do you want? Okay. But yeah. Man, got the trolls in here tonight. Our plant, do you think Joe Biden is a pedophile that molested his children? No, dude. No. Republicans, operatives making fake evidence and then dumping it onto your freedomeagle.blogspot is not evidence of things. So what is wrong with you people? Just no. All right. Ron Johnson, I want to see Houston run for president so you can debate Trump or whatever clown they put up there and smoke his ass. I don't need to run for president to debate him. Bring it on. They can come on my show. I'm okay with that. That'll be fun. The problem is like someone like Trump, he doesn't know anything, and he'll gladly state stuff as fact, and then half the country's like, duh, it must be the way it is, because they don't know anything. So you face somebody who's quick-witted, who can insult you right back, and really, I mean, if Trump were to have faced Obama, Obama would have ripped him to shreds. I mean, Obama ripped him to shreds at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, which is the entire reason Trump ran for president in 2016, was to be like, yeah, Obama, yeah, fuck you. That was the entire reason. But man, Obama found that little tiny thread and just pulled and absolutely just dematerialized Donald Trump. There are people who can do that, but Trump spends his entire life avoiding being in the same room as someone who can do that to him. He's not quick-witted enough to handle someone who's actually quick-witted. Monkey, you are so demanding right now. Okay, fine. Fine. This is what you want. This is what she wants. We'll just give her what she wants. Yeah. It's this. Yeah. Oh, now you're being a good dog? That's what's happening? Now you're being a good dog? Okay, you know the routine. Get one up here. Come on, get it. Get it. Get it. Reach for it. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. Oh, so close. So gentle. There we go. Spoiled dog. Okay. Camera. Oh. Okay. Iggy Lemon. Justin Marmon, Elon bought Tesla. He didn't start it. Buying a company or product and telling people you're the creator doesn't make it true. Exactly. Yeah. Iggy stopped confusing us with facts. Guitar stuff. Oh, crap. Where'd he go? I just scrolled and then it disappeared forever. Guitar stuff, guitar stuff, guitar stuff, guitar stuff, guitar stuff. There we go. Happy birthday. Fed won't cut, but the market will keep pumping until the participants realize this. Yeah. The Fed can't cut until inflation goes down. And if inflation doesn't go down, they have to raise some more. I still think that they need to raise probably 50 basis points, maybe 75 basis points to really, truly cause inflation to go down. Or just end the plunge protection team, let the economy just crash. Pick one. But they need to destroy a whole bunch of capital. And the only way to do that is really let the economy crash. Because it's been inflated. It's fake. It's been inflated with stock buybacks. It's all phony. Every single bit of it is just a facade, bubble, whatever you want to call it. But it's all fake. The first purge, I've seen stocks go from $2.78 in pre-market. Why not 20 cents to 50? Oh, talking about potential prices for Acme parent company. I see. First purge, inflation is astroturf and not grass because of price gouging. We are not running this hot. Corporations are just greedy. You think they still have backlogs, supply chain issues? I don't. There are still some backlog supply chain issues, but for the most part, they're capitalizing on saying there are. When eggs, or this massive egg shortage because of bird flu. Yes, there were birds dying from bird flu. But you only notice the egg manufacturers made like 780% more profit. That is not the result of a supply chain issue. That's the result of price gouging. And when faced with price gouging, that's when the government in the past, when you had Eisenhower and FDR, they step in, they put a price limit on something. Like, yeah, you can't sell eggs for more than $2.50 a dozen. You just can't. So your solution is either sell more eggs or go out of business. Pick one. And in the end, they always sell more eggs. Just like after World War II, Truman put a limit. I think maybe it was Eisenhower. I can't remember which one. One of them put a limit that new homes couldn't sell for more than $10,000. And at first, everyone's like, "How dare you? That is wrong. You're just going to kill the industry." Well, it didn't kill the industry because they discovered they could build houses efficiently and sell them for less than $10,000. And all they did was they built a whole bunch of them to meet their revenue goals. So rather than just like keep the market tight and sell one for $1 kajillion, you'd sell $1 kajillion for $1. Same amount of money passed hands. So you're going to have to kind of force the market to behave in a different way to lower these prices. And it also helps to destroy monopolies. I mean, the meat industry is controlled by like 3 companies. So break those 3 companies up into 10,000 companies like it used to be, and prices will go right back down again. Create competition. We are in a capitalist society. You guys all talk about competition. Create it. Do it already. Dan Harris forwarded the FOIA request to Rosa, care of her law firm today. Hopefully she can see it. Awesome. So yeah, so Dan's got Freedom of Information Act request into the SEC, and hopefully they acknowledge that the request is there. I have no idea how long they're going to take to fulfill it, but hopefully you'll get some info from that, and it can be helpful to Rosa. G-Font, also massive rate cuts have already been priced in the market. futures curves. Crash catalyst soon. Very likely. SS Commando, who has bigger arms, Michelle Obama, Serena Williams? SS Commando, I'm just going to close. You're just a racist. I'm just going to hide user on this channel. Bye-bye. See you, SS Commando. No, see, I'm going to put up just racist bullshit, so go away. Brandon Cowells, Houston. Can you explain what it means how Chase acquired First Republic through receivership? I don't know what it means, or if there were other ways to acquire it. If it's good or bad, thanks. Receivership is a process of, you're not just bankrupt, you're fucked. When I was at the Art Institute of Seattle, the company was going bankrupt, and they were owned by Education Management Corporation, which owned 50 gajillion colleges across the country. Education Management Corporation was owned by Goldman Sachs. Goldman would put a bunch of their people in charge of Education Management Corporation. They would sell off all the assets. They'd take out billions of dollars in necessary loans. They give themselves gigantic bonuses. And then they're like, peace. And the next guy's turn. And they did that until the company had no more assets left, therefore could not take out any more loans. And they were bankrupt, essentially. So what they did was like, well, you lent me a whole bunch of stuff, so I'm just going to give you the Art Institute of Seattle, all these colleges. Good luck, bank. And all of a sudden, this bank owns this college system, and they're like, what the hell do we do with this? I don't know. So they're trying to put it up for sale. And this is like 2016. And so these Pentecostals wanted Dream Change Educational Holdings. There's some Pentecostal church from California. So they came to the company, the bank that now owned the college, and said, hey, we want to buy you. And the bank was like, oh my God, thank you. We want to get rid of this college so bad. And so they had to get permission from the Obama administration, from the education department. And the education department was like, yeah, so you don't have enough assets to like run these colleges with 500,000 students and all of them and these 150 campuses. So we're not going to allow this to happen. You have to find a different buyer. It can't be these dudes. And the bank was like, shit. And then Trump won the election a few months later, and Betsy DeVos was in charge of the education department. And so Dream Change Educational Holdings, the Pentecostals, came back like, hey, we want to buy this. And Betsy DeVos is like, I don't fucking care. And so they bought it. And the bank was like, I'm out. Woo! And Dream Change did not have enough money to run the colleges. And so what they ended up doing was when students would go to school, they fill out their FAFSA forms. And the FAFSA forms, you get $5,500 a quarter in Pell Grants. And then you can take out money in student financial aid loans. And students would take out loans because they have to live and pay for their classes and everything. So they take out tens of thousands of dollars in loans every quarter. And then they show up to school and be like, cool, I should get my living expenses here from the college. And then the college would never give them their living expenses. Like the classes cost $8,000. I should have another $4,000 coming. So, the $12,000 student aid. So $4,000 to me so I can pay my rent and everything. And the school's like, no. This went on for 2 years. So come 2019, I discovered my students are like living in their cars in boxes on the side of the street because they never got their financial aid money from the college. I'm like, that's weird. That does not sound like how a college should run. And then one day we get an email that's like, hi, the U.S. government has appointed a receiver for all of these colleges because Dream Change Educational Holdings is a giant scam and the Pentecostals stole everyone's money. So a receiver came along and the receiver's like, well, we got to manage this college as long as I can with what finances are available. Essentially, it's beyond bankruptcy. And then they put everything up for sale. A couple of the colleges got bought out of receivership. So there's I think there's still an Art Institute of Savannah, Georgia or something, an Art Institute of Houston, Texas. But everything else couldn't sell in time and they just dissolved because they had no more money. So in this case, First Republic gets taken over by the FDIC. FDIC says, you ain't got no more money. You owe too much. We're going to take you, seize you, freeze everything, and we're going to take all these assets. We're going to give them to somebody else for a price. And JP Morgan came along and was like, we'll take those assets from you. And instead of the FDIC saying, wait a minute, you control more than 10% of all deposits in America. Legally, you cannot take these assets. And JP Morgan's like, who else is going to take them? And FDIC said, all right, well, here you go. So they took it out of receivership that way. The fact that JP Morgan took it, do I think it's good? No, I do not think it's good at all. I think we need to take JP Morgan. We need to break JP Morgan up into 1,500 different banks, maybe. Probably 4 investment banks, 5 investment banks, and another 1,200 commercial banks. I don't know, just a lot. Just smash it into pieces. Maybe not necessarily regional banks. Maybe make them 1,000 different national banks. I don't care. Something. But there should not be banks that are so big that they're the only option in town, the only game in town, because that just makes them even bigger. And that's not good for anybody. We're approaching a monopoly. So basically 3 banks control 50% of all assets. 10 banks control 85% of the country. That's just not sustainable for us. You need more. You need a lot more. Fabrizio, you see Magic Johnson's son's butt? He got a big trunk. No, I've not seen Magic Johnson's son's butt. Lapatron, dude, just opened the stream talking about ass, mad respect. Hey, I'm an ass man. Rod Avoye, tinfoil hat theory regarding CNC owning 780 million shares. ICANN shorted BBY into the ground, forcing a bankruptcy so that filings could reveal CNC's position and reveal the shit show. As good a tinfoil hat theory as any. Why not? Amber Fire right, clip that explanation of the polls, Google Maps pictures. Yeah, why not? I need a producer, and I can make really cool stuff, but I just don't have the skill to do the animations and the editing and all those things. Slayer J, Houston. Assuming the gems at the end of the Goonies were real, how would they produce enough cash to save the Goondocks? Google Images, gems at end of Goonies for reference. I don't know. It's been 30 years since I saw that movie. Okay, images. All right. We got this here. We got a bunch of gold. So this is 1986 when Goonies came out. 87. What year is Goonies? Year Goonies came out. 85. June 85. Okay. It's 85. Gold's at, I don't know, $200 an ounce back then. So looking at this picture, these are probably about 1 ounce coins. So you probably have 100 of those. That's not very much. That's like 20 grand in gold. But then you got gold bars. So this is probably several $1,000s in gold bars. And you got pearl necklaces. The gems themselves. Let's see the gems here. These look like maybe tourmaline. Probably supposed to be a ruby. Sorry, a sapphire. This looks like spessartine or maybe like a Podparadarsha sapphire. Might be morganite here. These are probably supposed to be diamonds. This is all glass, by the way. Every single one of these things is glass. But this might be emerald. That size is probably a couple carats, which even the 80s would still probably get $500 a carat for like a cashmere colored stone like that. So let's say in their hand, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So just this handful right here is probably $6,000 in gemstones in 1985. Here, these are probably all supposed to be diamonds. They have like no fire whatsoever. Almost like they should have gotten real diamonds so they would sparkle in a crazy way. That's definitely emerald, sapphire, sapphire, sapphire. I'm not sure how much total there would be, but my guess is that the bulk of the money is going to be in the treasure chest, it's going to be in gold. But even then, real estate prices were way lower. We had gone through a real estate crash in the 80s. You could buy a house, a really nice house for 50 grand. So, yeah, there's probably $100,000 in gold here, but through the right sale, if some of them are particular historic items, you can sell them for more. That's just raw material, so that's not cultural value or anything like that. Well, yeah, this panful right here, today's dollars, that would be several pounds of gold. That'd probably be a couple $100,000. In the 80s, a tenth that. So $10,000, $20,000. Yeah. So, where they got the scales and things like this, probably at a few million bucks in the end. So yeah, it's all in gold. Gems, whatever, but the gold is going to be where it's at in this. Those are crappy gems. Those things aren't worth shit. They don't have any fire to them. King cat. You can come in? Meow. Come on. Oh, you guys can't see anything because I didn't have that up. Damn it. They weren't. I'm talking about pictures, and you guys can't see any of the pictures because I'm an idiot. So, these green ones, because these are glass and not real, these are probably supposed to be emeralds, but they look more like tourmaline. These clear ones are definitely supposed to be diamonds. If you had diamonds this big, even back then, you're looking at probably $10,000 a carat. Now, diamond that big, probably looking closer to $100,000 to $1 million a carat. This big orange thing, that I'm not sure what that's supposed to be. Maybe like a spessartine garnet or a padparadasha sapphire. But yeah, the gem's not worth something. This gold is where it's at. This is the stuff that's gonna be worth, guaranteed. Dave, yes, I enjoy watching your show. Well, I hope you enjoy watching when I actually show the images I'm talking about and not just pointing at things that you guys can't see shit about. All right. Check to see if it was off. Lucky, your butt distracted me. It did. Clear the calendar. 0 days since the second intro. Okay. But Dave, yes, thank you. All right. The first purge. Why doesn't Biden just keep pumping oil? Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia. I will sacrifice. South Carolina, North Carolina are all red states. Let the Cat 10 hurricanes come through while I get 56 cents per gallon. Well, oil production is up. We are producing more oil. The thing is that oil is a global market. So we have the infrastructure to produce X amount of oil. But Saudi Arabia and OPEC countries are reducing their output, which is why we're desperately trying to normalize relationships with Venezuela. We've got agreements to send in American experts to modernize their oil fields and to start pumping oil. Venezuela is dirt poor and they need help. So they'll take some help from the great Satan. Right? Hi, buddy. No, cat, don't go up there. Don't go up there, you little son of a bitch. You turn off the computer again, I'm going to be so mad. Don't you dare. Don't you dare. Get the fuck off of there. No, get off. Sorry. No, you do not climb on top of the battery ever again. We're not doing that again. Oh. I don't want to all of a sudden have my computer just shut off because he stood on top of the battery button again like a little asshole. Whew, that was close. That was because foot was right by there. Oh, man. Okay. Kitty. Sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. I know you're very angry that I kicked you off of there, but no. Whew. Remember the last time that happened? I was like, Cat, you're going to turn off my computer. And then the computer just turned off and I disappeared forever. And I was like, Took like an hour because the computer wanted to do all these updates when it's booted back up again. All right. Phew. Okay. Where were we? Amber, fire right. Is Elon company going to be held responsible for the nature devastation? I would hope so, but I doubt it because it's Texas. So unless federal EPA steps in and is like, look, dude, you just ruined an entire wildlife refuge or National Park Service, whoever's control those things. But there's also a state park there, and Texas is like, do whatever you want, Elon, I don't care. Because it's Texas. So only if the federal government steps in and is like, hey, don't do that. Will anything happen? But the state of Texas won't do anything about it. Pulsewave, they're selling more iPhones, iPads based on their last earnings. That's good. That's good for Apple. Computer sales are way, way, way down. I think one of the issues why computer sales are down is that people spend more time on their phones than they do in front of a traditional computer. Like I'm in front of a computer now, but the only time I'm ever in front of it now is to do my shows. And it's gotten to the point where it's so complicated to write software that can outperform modern computers that as long as you have a decent video card, you can have a computer from 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, and they can still run some of the most awesome video games out there as long as you've got a good video card. So you don't need a new computer. Where in the past, the programming ability and rendering options for video games and stuff would outpace the computers. You have to update the computers every 4 years. And now, like this computer I'm on, I can run all the latest video games. I've got a 1080 Ti video card that's 5, 6 years old. I can run everything on it. So I don't need a new computer. And I won't get one until all of a sudden I can't run anything on it anymore. But that wasn't possible in the past. We got our first computer in 1990, first PC in 1994. And by 96, I had to build a new computer because the 486 processor couldn't handle it. So I had a 686 in there. And then by 99, I had a new computer. And by 2003, I'd have a new computer. And by 2007, I had a new computer. That 2007 computer lasted me until like 2016. And then I got a new computer in 2016, and I have not had to do anything to it since except put a new video card in it. So I think it's just so expensive to make something that could outperform modern computers that they just don't have it done yet. Both the dog and cat just on the floor staring at each other. You weirdos, just make out already. Yeah, you heard me. Scott Lumley, Houston, happy birthday. Do you have any thoughts on the sudden spike from No Labs today? What do you think No Labs will be worth in 5 years? No Labs had a sudden spike because they printed verification from the Mayo Clinic that their tech works. And they had the paper published about their testing. They were the testing against the one that sticks in you, the GlucoWise or whatever it is. They're testing against that and showing that there's a definite relation as they're calibrating their machine, that they can definitely test that there's blood glucose in the system, and it spikes just like it does with the invasive monitor. So they proved the technology, and so that's probably why No Labs was seeing a spike today, because people were like, oh shit, this company's actually going to do it. What will it be worth in 5 years? That largely depends upon how long it takes to get FDA approval for their device. If they get the FDA approval device in 5 years, they're a $100 billion company. They'll be the only one out there allowed to do it. They'll beat everyone else to market. I mean, that would result, if they don't sell more shares and dilute the amount of shares out there, that would mean each share is worth $2,000 each. Because they'll be pulling down $30 billion a year cash just from subscription services. So that's not too shabby. That's not such a bad place to be. Insurance will pay for all of it. Daniel Bernard, Houston, still holding BBBYQ for the mothership's destination. What odds AM buyout or merger occurs? Or is it better to play the hyper price movement till the end of the month after all is said and done? I'm treating it like a lotto ticket. I've got shares and I've got calls. The calls expire on June 16th on the triple witching or whatever it is in June. And if there hasn't been a buyer by June 16th, well, then I lose all those calls. Them's the breaks. If there's a buyer before that, then all those calls are worth a small fortune. And my shares are worth a small fortune as well. I can hold on my shares forever and just treat them like a loss, a tax write-off if I have to. But I think if there's going to be a move to purchase them out of bankruptcy, it's going to be this month. And if it doesn't happen this month, they're probably going to languish and die on the pink sheets and be closing down store after store. You'll have kind of like a Sears situation, except Sears owned billions of dollars in real estate, and Bed Bath & Beyond just leased spaces, so they don't own anything. They have like physical assets or basically their inventory, and that's about it. Kelleros, happy birthday. Have you had the time to look at Thunderfoot, Philip E. Mason? I hope to see a talk between two of you. I have not had a chance to look at Thunderfoot yet. I did not do that. All right, we'll get there. I haven't done it yet. I'm getting warnings that my video might be down. Sorry if I look like Max Headroom. It's the internet being a dick on a Friday night. Cinco de Mayo, the internet wants to be a dick. Come on, man. Open widget. What's that do? That's all it is. Okay, we'll close widget. There. Okay. Okay, widget closed. There's that. There's Killer Russ. Andrew Dowell, morning Houston from UK. My disabled girlfriend dumped me, so I stole her wheelchair. Guess who came crawling back? Oh my god. Okay. Amber Firelight. Chris Hadfield said good things about the rocket launch. He didn't talk about the launch pad though. Ask Chris Hadfield if he would get into that rocket. No, he would not. That would be the true test. Like, Chris, you willing to get into Starship for the next launch? He'd be like, absolutely not. I think every person who's fighting me on the internet about my opinions on the launch should have to take a seat in the next launch. That should be their punishment. If you think it went so well, get in the seat for the next one. Someone with Cyrillic in their name, Houston, you are the dumbest smart person on the internet. Sure thing. Sure thing. I am the dumbest smart person on the internet. That's let's go. Let's do that. Tool of Freedom, nice hair though. Talk about Elon. Silver Surfer, wow, this guy's no concrete. When NASA's concrete below the launch pads. NASA's concrete below the launch pads is a flame diverter, not just a flat tarmac. They built a flame diverter. They channel the thrust through these giant tube systems and are built up on a giant concrete pad, and they channel everything down through these flame systems while pumping a gajillion gallons of water into the base of the rocket to absorb the thrust, the heat, and the acoustics, the giant sound waves that can rattle things apart. And if you don't do those three things, you don't mitigate those three things, the concrete itself would shatter into a gajillion pieces and then fire everywhere like we just saw. That's the engineering behind building a rocket pad. And Elon did none of those mitigation efforts with the most powerful rocket ever built. The Saturn V was like 5 million pounds of thrust. This was 17.6 million pounds of thrust. We knew it was going to blow apart the concrete. Elon was warned about it 3 years ago and was like, yeah, I'm not going to build a deluge or a flame inverter. Might be a fuck up. It was, you dipshit. All of his engineers were like, please build a flame inverter and a deluge. And he was like, it's going to cost money and time. Now he's going to face all this money and time having to rebuild the stupid thing, then not get permitted to fly because he's been grounded by the FAA. And if he's like, oh, I'm going to put this steel slab down, the FAA might look at it and go, no. And the EPA might not allow it. The Army Corps of Engineers might not allow it. Now he has all of these 3-letter agencies of the government looking at everything he did because he fucked up. He fucked up so bad that physicists can't figure out how debris got 6 miles away. They don't know how it happened. They honestly cannot figure out what was happening physically in the system to cause debris, pieces of sand. We're not talking like dust. Pieces of quartz sand at a certain volume to launch 6 miles away. They don't know what effect caused that. They can't figure it out. He fucked up so bad, he unleashed a new study of physics. That's how bad he fucked up. Like, there are going to be PhDs written about how messed up it was. The pieces of sand rocketed 6 miles away through the atmosphere. Do you realize how fast sand has to be going to end up 6 miles away? Because sand is so teeny tiny that it gets stopped with air resistance and doesn't make it very far. I mean, if you take a sand blaster and you put your hand next to a sand blaster, yeah, cut through your hand. You get 2 feet away, it might like take off some paint. You get 3 feet away, you won't even notice it anymore. So if you're rocketing sand out of a machine designed to rocket sand and you can't get it to go 6 miles away, how on earth did Elon manage to develop a new realm of ballistic physics and get sand to go 6 miles away? It's absolutely mind-boggling. Just mind-boggling. Okay. Ludmig Vladimir Dorner. Hey, Houston. If I may ask, how many BBBY shares have you got? Not options, actual shares. I'm at 23. What am I? Got 2,281. So almost 2,300. So not a huge amount, but a couple thousand. People talking about, Pacific Northwest Texan. Kennedy seems to be taking a super centrist approach. Kennedy's running for president as a Democrat, but he's not a Democrat. He's a far-right anti-vax weirdo. He's not going to make it anywhere. Pulse Wave. In my opinion, so odd they rely on those old Reddit shit logic for false authority. Freedom Eagle. Do you get your real news from failing News Corp CNN? I'm sure you think Antifa didn't cause damage during BLM. Oh, Jesus Christ, on this crap again. Okay. There's a difference between, like, reporting and journalism and stuff that's, like, news pieces that are catered to sort of, I don't know, sway the public to one way or the other. There's a large difference. And it takes a lot of, you gotta know how to get information, how to parse information, how to fact check information to delve down to any of these things. Now, I don't get my news from CNN because I don't have a fucking television channel on my TV. All I have is streaming so I can watch baseball games and TVs and movies. TV shows and movies. I don't get my news off the TV. I read. Pulse Wave, I spend all day reading. I spend 10, 12 hours a day reading as much information on everything I possibly can all day. I don't have time. When I wake up in the morning, I spend the next 4 hours before I even eat breakfast take a shower, I spend the next 4 hours reading nothing but news articles, academic journal articles, Reddit pieces you guys send me, Twitter threads, newspapers. I wake up to 100 messages every morning filled with article after article after article people send me to read. And I try my best to read every single solitary one of them. I do. I can read pretty fast. I can read much faster than I can watch a video. So if you send me videos, sometimes I'm like, that's 3 hours long. I don't have time to watch that video right now. Give me a transcript. But I read all day long. Also, okay, the Antifa didn't cause damage during BLM. Yeah, there's people, members of Antifa, that were not so much members of Antifa, there were black bloc people who caused damage. But most of the damage caused during the Black Lives Matter marches and riots that happened in 2020, guess who those were actually caused by? Far-right actors. You know the guys that burned down the police station in Minneapolis and destroyed the AutoZone? They were white supremacists. The fire that happened at the courthouse in Nashville, another white supremacist. The shootings that happened at Chaz, the Capitol Hill, whatever they wanted to call it, autonomous zone. Guess who did the shooting? Proud Boys. Those are the guys who did the shooting. The violence was caused by a bunch of white supremacists. Even Trump's own national security advisor said most of the violence is happening from white supremacists. I can find you the article right here. Okay. Trump admin violence BLM white nationalists. Here we go. Top 1. Trump's of white supremacist extremists in U.S. urban violence. This is September 9th, 2020. Basically, it was a bunch of white supremacists doing most of the violence. Remember when during the BLM riots in Las Vegas, a bunch of police officers got killed? Everyone's like, oh my God. And it turned out it was a bunch of Boogaloo boys, white supremacist Boogaloo boys who did it. Killed like 4 cops. Yeah, is it most of the violence that happened? Not all. There were a couple of protesters who like lit a car here on fire here in Seattle. But most of the rampant violence that was happening and targeting police stations and officers themselves, it was being done by white nationalists and Boogaloo boys who their entire goal is to start a race war. They wanted to attack these places and then get the cops so fed up that they would just slaughter all the black people and protesters wholesale and start a giant race war across the country. So it wasn't all Antifa. Matter of fact, most of it was white supremacists. That's just the way it was. So where are you getting your news that you think all the violence that was being caused was coming from BLM protesters? Because it wasn't. Most of the people charged for the violence were white nationalists. White nationalists are the biggest terrorist group in America. Since 2001, something like 96% of the political violence in this country has been caused by white nationalists. 2020, 2021, 2022, 100% of all the political deaths in this country were the result of violence from white nationalists. 100%. You don't have black bloc people going out there and setting bombs on stuff. Those are white nationalists doing that. You don't have black bloc people going out there and planning mass shootings. That's white nationalists that are doing that. They're not shooting up synagogues. Those are white nationalists. They're not shooting up mosques. Those are not shooting up Walmarts because they're scared of immigration. Those are white nationalists. They're not shooting up gay clubs and they're always bigots associated with white nationalism who are doing that crap. Like every time. So no. When you read your news sources, you gotta figure out